Alright, so I've been using the newly released Google Pixel 6a for a week now, and wow. This thing was definitely worth the hype and has impressed me in many ways, although it was something I already expected coming from Google. You see, I've been using the Pixel 6 that was launched last October as my daily driver for almost all of this year, and my experience with the Pixel 6a has felt exactly the same as the Pixel 6, which is a good thing, especially at its price point of $449. That being said, there have been a few issues of concern, so I just wanted to touch base on that in my 1 week review. And before we get started, I just wanted to say that I will be doing a full review of the 6a once I've used the device for longer, a comparison of the Google Pixel 6, and also an awesome day in the life vlog, so you should definitely subscribe to the channel and be ready for those awesome videos. Alright, starting off the hardware, compared to the Pixel 6, it is a little smaller with a 6.1 inch screen and much lighter with its plastic back, which Google calls their 3D thermoformed composite back. If you're worried about the plastic feeling cheap, don't be, because it almost feels like glass but less slippery and more grippy, and it's also much more durable to drops. I've also noticed that it is a dust magnet though, as it attracts a ton of dust and hair. Also, because the phone is smaller and lighter with its smaller display and plastic back, it feels more compact and comfortable to hold, although it's not a small phone by any means. Another thing I noticed instantly was a lack of a big camera bump like the Pixel 6, as there's only a slight raise for the camera bar. This, I assume, is because of the use of smaller camera sensors. The aluminum frame also feels the same, and the buttons are just as quickly, so no hardware concerns so far, and I'm actually really liking how this phone feels in the hand compared to the Pixel 6. As for my setup process, while I was setting up the device, I did run into a small issue, however, in which I couldn't enroll my fingerprint, as it kept throwing up an error that read, "Fingerprint enrollment didn't work. Try again or use a different finger." Luckily, after device reset and a couple of restarts, the issue did go away and hasn't showed up since. As for the actual fingerprint sensor, I actually think it's way better than when the Pixel 6 was released, and I don't have many complaints about it. It's also not the fastest fingerprint sensor, but the important part is that it reads my finger the majority of times, and it also scans through a screen protector, which is important to me. Also, make sure to enable increased touch sensitivity in the settings if you're installing a screen protector on the phone. One concern I have heard people say that is the fingerprint scanner has been scanning fingers that aren't registered and still unlocking the device, which is not good for security. And while I haven't faced that issue myself, I hope it's something that Google can address and fix immediately with the next software update. Anyways, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the 60Hz display on the Pixel 6a. As a cost-saving measure to reduce the price on the Pixel 6a, Google had to downgrade the 90Hz on the Pixel 6 to a 60Hz panel. There's a huge controversy because in Marques Brownlee's review, he said, and I quote, "This is one of the choppiest displays purely coming from my decade of phone testing experience," as he compared it on screen with the 120Hz screen of the iPhone 13 Pro, which is more than double the price of this phone. And naturally, all the MKBHD fanboys started trashing on the Pixel 6a online without even trying the phone and making all sorts of outrageous claims. I called BS on all of that, and honestly, 60Hz is perfectly fine. Before high refresh rate displays were introduced to phones, we've all used 60Hz displays for decades, and there was not a single problem about it. Now, all of a sudden, it's horrible and laggy and choppy and completely unusable. Total BS. And because of how smooth the animations in the Pixel UI are, I would say this is actually one of the smoothest 60Hz displays I've ever used. You'll quickly get used to the 60Hz after a day, and from then on, it's a pretty decent panel. Comparing side by side with the Pixel 6, it does look pretty much identical, with the same colors and brightness output, although it is a little smaller. There is one small issue I have with the display though, which happens to me with the Pixel 6 as well, and it's kind of annoying. You see, when I have the phone in my pocket, for some random reason, the screen just keeps waking itself and tapping itself on my thigh, which often emergency dials people from my contacts or starts like inputting a billion numbers onto the lock screen pin. This has definitely caused some serious battery drain in my pocket, and I'm not sure what the issue is, but I will try and figure that out for the full review. Now, other than the pocket issue, I'd say the battery life has been pretty impressive so far, and although I've only used the phone for a week, I'm getting a solid projected 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, which does feel slightly better than the Pixel 6 due to the 60Hz and smaller display. And funny enough, I actually haven't been able to kill a phone each day because I'm not a very heavy phone user, and I'm usually left with around 30 to 40% with 3 hours of screen on time at the end of the day. And especially when adaptive battery kicks in the next few weeks, I'm going to be pretty confident that this phone will have great battery life to last you all day, and then some to the next day if you're a light user like me. As for the performance, it performs as well as the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro due to the Tensor chip inside. apps open very fast, animations across the UI are very fluid, and I haven't noticed much stuttering or lagging if at all. The phone does get pretty warm after extended usage as well though, which is quite uncomfortable, but that happens with my Pixel 6 and my S22 as well, so I'm not too concerned that it's like a big issue with this device. It also happens that there's a heat wave going on in Canada right now, so it always feels like 30 to 35 degrees Celsius every day, so it's pretty expected for all my devices to overheat. I've also noticed the same network problems that I have with the Pixel 6 on the Pixel 6a as well, and that has to do with the older modem inside these phones. It's not a major problem or a deal breaker, but I always notice less signal and data reception when I'm outside and especially indoors compared to other phones like my S22 for example. And onto some good news though, Android 12 on this phone has been running smoothly so far with none of the bugs that plagued the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro when it launched. It is behind on updates, but it will receive new ones soon, and the Android 13 beta is supposed to come out for the Pixel 6a as well, which I know will make a lot of people happy. And lastly, the cameras. So this phone has the same arrangement as the Pixel 6 with a normal and an ultra-wide sensor. I haven't had the chance to take many pictures yet, but from my experience, it feels right at home if you've owned a Pixel device before. The main sensor is the same one that was used from the Pixel 2 all the way to the Pixel 5, and it performs great thanks to Google's excellent image processing. These photos are not as sharp as the 50 megapixel sensors from the Google Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, and it does struggle more in low light, but the important thing is that exposure, HDR, and colors are all on point, which is great. The ultra-wide sensor is actually the same as the Pixel 6 too, which is nice for taking wide shots, and same thing with the selfie camera. Now, I will be doing a comparison video with the Pixel 6, so I definitely will be comparing photos from both phones and see how much of a difference it actually makes, so stay tuned for that. And I guess that wraps up my initial impressions of the Pixel 6a. Despite all of the issues I've talked about, it's definitely impressed me a lot because of the combination of good hardware and great software, and I actually think it might turn out to be the best budget phone of 2022, as long as there aren't any major issues, especially with that killer $449 price tag. If the Pixel 6 does continue to drop in price though, that might end up becoming the better buy and overshadowing the Pixel 6a. It also depends on if Google discontinues the Pixel 6 after the launch of the Pixel 7, which I am really excited for by the way. But anyways, if you like this video, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button for more awesome content coming your way. Have a good one guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I give up. Don't ask me why. Patrick from Patrick Rambles dared me to do that. But anyways, go subscribe to him cause he's awesome dude. But yeah, anyways, bye for reals.